Claire Thompson and Michael Carter had been married for 6 years. The sweetness they once shared had eroded, like sand blown away by the wind, leaving nothing behind. Claire was a powerhouse CEO, decisive and relentless. Michael, on the other hand, was a stay-at-home husband whose life revolved around the kitchen, tending to her every need. In the beginning, Claire had found it endearing. Coming home to a hot meal, to a house that was always immaculate, felt like a comfort. But as time wore on, a sourness grew in her heart. She'd look at the sharp, ambitious men at her company, then come home to Michael in an apron, asking what she wanted for dinner, and all she felt was a suffocating mix of frustration and contempt. She saw him as unambitious, a man with no drive, content to be lost in domestic chores. Her affection cooled from warmth to indifference, then to a coldness that bordered on outright annoyance. Slowly, Claire started coming home later and later, often not at all. When she did return, she'd head straight for the guest room, leaving Michael to sleep alone. While she had never been unfaithful, the marriage was, for all intents and purposes, dead. Michael felt it, of course. The pain was a constant, sharp ache in his chest. But he silently carried on, hoping that one day she might come back to him. Tonight, for the first time in ages, Claire came home on time. Michael had prepared a lavish dinner. Candles flickered on the table next to a bouquet of fresh flowers. "Is it a special occasion?" Claire asked, her tone flat as she dropped her briefcase. The light in Michael's eyes dimmed for a moment, but he forced a smile. "No, not really. I just thought. It's been a while since we ate together." Claire didn't respond. She walked to the table, sat down, and glanced at the dishes. "I told you I'm cutting carbs. This is all too rich. I can make something else." Michael said, starting to get up. "Don't bother. I'll just have a salad." Claire rose and walked to the refrigerator. "Actually, there's something I need to talk to you about." Michael stood frozen, his fingers unconsciously twisting the hem of his apron. He had a feeling he knew what was coming. With her back to him, Claire pulled out a bag of spinach, her voice as casual as if she were discussing the weather. "Michael, let's get a divorce." His body went rigid. A long moment passed before he finally managed a quiet question. "Why? Did I do something wrong?" "You didn't do anything wrong. I just don't see the point of this marriage anymore." Claire turned to face him, her expression so calm it was almost cruel. "We're not like a husband and wife. We're more like strangers who happen to share a mortgage. You're still young. You shouldn't be trapped in a loveless marriage." Michael looked down, his silence filling the room. When he finally lifted his head, the hurt in his eyes was impossible to hide, but he still managed a faint smile. "If you've made up your mind, I respect your decision." Claire hadn't expected him to agree so easily. An odd, uncomfortable feeling pricked at her, but she pushed it away, reverting to her businesslike tone. "In the settlement, I'll make sure you're compensated enough so that you'll be financially secure for the rest of your life." Michael shook his head. "I don't need your money. You bought this house. I'll move out. Then at least let me do something," Claire said, a rare pang of guilt surfacing. "We'll go handle the paperwork tomorrow. Let's have dinner together tomorrow night. As a farewell." Michael just nodded, said nothing more, and turned back to the kitchen. "I'll make you that salad." Watching his lonely figure, Claire's heart clenched for an instant, but she quickly hardened it again. A clean break was better for both of them. The next day, they finalized the divorce with quiet efficiency. That evening, they went to an upscale restaurant downtown. Michael was clearly dressed for the occasion in a tailored suit, his hair perfectly styled. Claire had to admit that even after all these years, Michael was still handsome enough to turn heads. "You look great tonight," Claire offered, a rare compliment. Michael smiled, but didn't reach his eyes. "Thanks. You look beautiful, too. You always do." An awkward silence settled between them. Michael swirled the wine in his glass, then spoke. "Remember our first date? It was right here at this restaurant." Claire paused. She'd completely forgotten. "I saved up for 3 months just to bring you here," Michael said, a nostalgic look in his eyes. "You told me it was a waste of money and that we should have just gotten street tacos." A faint memory surfaced. He had been a broke college student back then, but to her, he had seemed like the richest man in the world, full of talent, dreams, and a heart that beat only for her. What had changed? Had the corporate world corroded her so much that she only saw value in titles and bank accounts? Or did time truly erode everything, including love? "Those were good times," Michael said softly, almost to himself. Claire was about to reply when the floor buckled violently beneath them. The chandeliers swayed wildly, and dishes clattered off the tables. "Earthquake!" someone screamed. The restaurant erupted into chaos. People scrambled frantically for the exit. Michael shot to his feet and grabbed Claire's hand. Claire, let's go. But it was too late. The ceiling began to crumble, and massive chunks of concrete rained down. In that split second between life and death, Michael pulled Claire into his arms without a second's hesitation, shielding her with his body. Michael! Claire screamed in terror. It's okay. His voice was unervingly calm. I've got you. The world collapsed in a deafening roar. Claire felt a sharp, searing pain, and then everything went black. She didn't know how much time had passed when she slowly regained consciousness. It was pitch black, and her entire body ached, but she could feel she was still wrapped tightly in Michael's arms. Michael? Michael, she called out weakly. He didn't respond. Claire tried to move, but his arms were still locked around her, as if protecting her was an instinct that even unconsciousness couldn't break. Help! Is anyone there? She yelled. Claire! A faint whisper came from him. Michael, you're awake. How are you? She asked desperately. His voice was barely a thread of sound. Are you? Okay. I'm fine. What about you? Are you hurt? He didn't answer her question. Instead, he said, Claire, I'm sorry. Claire was stunned. Why are you sorry? I am sorry. I can't protect you anymore. Michael's words came in broken gasps. If there's a next life, I'll still love you. With that, his arms finally went slack. There was no more sound. Michael? Michael! Claire shrieked, but no matter how many times she called his name, he remained silent. An eternity later, rescue workers found them. When the light finally broke through the rubble, Claire saw the full extent of it. A steel rebar had pierced through his chest. A heavy concrete slab was pinning his back, and she, cradled in his embrace, had only minor cuts and bruises. He had traded his life for hers. No! A gut-wrenching scream tore from Claire's throat. The man she had dismissed for years, the man she considered a failure, had shielded her with his life without a moment's thought. And what had she given him? Indifference, contempt, and finally, abandonment. A tidal wave of regret drowned her. She clutched Michael's cooling body, sobbing until she could barely breathe. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Michael. I was wrong. She repeated over and over, but the man who had loved her more than life itself could no longer hear her. After the rescue operation concluded, the first responders confirmed that Claire was the sole survivor from the restaurant. No one else had been shielded like she had. Hearing this news sent a fresh wave of agony through her. She looked at Michael's lifeless form, silent tears streaming down her face, her heart heavy with guilt. When an official began calling out the names of the deceased for family members to claim the bodies for burial, Claire froze. Michael Carter, family of Michael Carter. Claire instinctively started to respond. I'm his wife. The word caught in her throat. She wasn't his wife anymore. The memory of them signing the papers that very morning flashed through her mind. Legally, they were nothing to each other. The official asked again, Ma'am, are you his wife? Claire couldn't answer, her mind replaying the divorce. She no longer even had the right to send him off as his wife. The immense grief and guilt were too much to bear. Her vision tunneled, and she collapsed. When she opened her eyes again, she was lying in her old college dorm bed. Claire, you're awake. Get up, we're going to be late, a familiar yet distant voice said. Claire turned her head in shock and saw her college friend, Jessica Miller, her best friend who had moved abroad after graduation, the one she'd lost touch with. Jessica? What are you? Claire stammered. Jessica looked so much younger, just as she had 10 years ago when they were freshmen. What am I what? Get moving. It's the freshman convocation today, and you said you wanted to get there early to grab good seats, Jessica urged. Convocation? Claire shot up, grabbing the phone from her nightstand. She stared at the date. She was back. 10 years in the past. This can't be happening. Claire whispered, pinching her arm hard. The sharp sting of pain was terrifyingly real. What's wrong with you? Bad dream? Jessica asked, concerned. Claire didn't answer. She scrambled out of bed and rushed to the bathroom. In the mirror, a much younger face stared back at her, free of the sharp edges and exhaustion carved by a decade in the corporate world, full of nothing but youthful energy. She had been reborn. She was back in college. A sudden, overwhelming joy washed over her. Michael was still alive. They hadn't even started dating yet. Everything could be different. Jessica, is it true that Michael Carter from the architecture department is speaking today? Claire asked urgently. Jessica looked at her, surprised. How did you know? I heard there's some freshman representative named Michael who's supposed to be super handsome. Half the upperclassmen are already plotting to get his number. Claire smiled, tears welling in her eyes. Fate had given her a second chance. This time, she would never, ever let go of the man who had died for her. At the convocation ceremony, Claire couldn't sit still, her eyes glued to the stage. When the dean announced, "And now, please welcome our freshman representative, Michael Carter," her heart nearly leaped out of her chest. A young Michael walked onto the stage, dressed in a simple white button-down and black slacks, looking crisp and clean. His face was more boyish than it would be in 10 years, but his bright eyes and gentle demeanor were exactly the same. "Faculty, fellow students, good morning. My name is Michael Carter, and I'm a freshman in the School of Architecture." His voice was clear and pleasant, with just a hint of nerves. Claire stared at him, transfixed, as tears streamed down her face. He was alive. The man who had given his life for her was standing right there, real and breathing. The moment the ceremony ended, Claire bolted from her seat and sprinted toward the backstage area. "Claire, where are you going? Wait for me," Jessica yelled after her. But Claire heard nothing. She had only one thought. She had to see Michael, to touch him, to confirm he was real. In a backstage hallway, she finally saw him talking to Professor. Ignoring the stares of everyone around her, Claire ran straight to him and threw her arms around him in a tight embrace. "Michael, Michael," she sobbed, her tears soaking his shirt. Michael froze, his hands hovering awkwardly in the air. Miss, are you okay?" Everyone around them was stunned. Claire Thompson was already a campus celebrity, named the freshman class beauty, with a legion of admirers she treated with icy disdain. And now, here she was clinging to a boy she'd just met and crying her eyes out in public. "Isn't that Claire Thompson? What's wrong with her? Who's that guy?" "Her boyfriend. Never seen him before. I think he's a freshman in the architecture school." The murmurs around them made Michael even more flustered, but he didn't push her away. Instead, he asked softly, "Miss, are you all right? Do you need help?" Claire looked up, her vision blurred by tears. "I'm fine. I miss you so much." A collective gasp went through the hallway. Michael's face turned bright red. Do we know each other?" It was only then that Claire realized how impulsive she'd been. The Michael of this time didn't know her. They weren't supposed to meet until a design competition a month from now. But she didn't care. If she had a second chance, she was going to seize it with both hands. "We do now," Claire said, wiping away her tears and breaking into a brilliant smile. "I'm Claire Thompson, from the business school. Michael Carter, I like you. Please go out with me." The hallway exploded with chatter. The campus it girl, confessing her feelings to a freshman in public? This was the biggest news of the year. Michael just stared at her, dumbfounded. Just then, a dissonant voice cut in. "Claire, are you okay? Did you get heat stroke or something and lose your mind?" Claire turned and saw Chad Harrington, the rich kid who'd been chasing her since high school and who would later cause her no small amount of trouble. "I'm perfectly fine. I've never been more clear-headed in my life," Claire said coldly. She turned back to Michael, her expression softening instantly. "Michael, you haven't answered me yet." Michael glanced at the growing crowd, looking mortified. "Claire, Miss Thompson, we just met. This is really sudden. That's okay. We can get to know each other," Claire said with a smile. "I've got all the time in the world." Chad couldn't stand it any longer. He grabbed Claire's wrist. "Claire, stop making a scene. I'll take you back to your dorm." Claire yanked her arm away. "Chad, back off," she said, her voice like ice. "I'm talking to Michael. This has nothing to do with you." "You." Chad's face darkened with anger. To put an end to Chad's hopes once and for all, and to show Michael she was serious, Claire did something even more audacious. She stood on her toes and pressed her lips against his. Michael was completely petrified, his eyes wide with shock. The crowd of students erupted in whoops and whistles. Claire pulled back, turned to the onlookers, and announced loud and clear, "From now on, Michael Carter is my boyfriend. If anyone has a problem with that, you can take it up with me." With that, she grabbed the still-stunned Michael by the hand and pulled him through the crowd, leaving a scene of total pandemonium behind them. Claire didn't stop running until they reached the quiet campus lake on the far side of the quad. Michael was panting, a blush still coloring his cheeks. "Claire, what was that all about?" "Call me Claire," she said, smiling at him. "I'm sorry if that was too much back there, but everything I said was true." He looked at her, completely bewildered. "But why? We don't even know each other." "For me, we've known each other for a very long time," Claire said softly, a flicker of old pain in her eyes. "So long that I almost lost you." Michael was more confused than ever. "I don't understand." Claire took a deep breath. "Michael, I know this is crazy, but please believe me. I'm being completely honest. Just give me a chance. Let me get to know you and let you get to know me. Please." Michael looked at the beautiful girl in front of him. Her eyes held a depth and sadness that didn't belong to someone her age, and a strange sense of familiarity he couldn't place. His logical mind told him to run, but an inexplicable pull kept him from saying no. I need some time to think, he finally said. Claire nodded. Of course. I can wait. But until then, can we at least start as friends? Michael hesitated for a moment, then nodded. A joyful smile lit up Claire's face, so bright that it momentarily dazzled him. It's a deal, then. I'll come find you at the architecture building for lunch tomorrow, Claire said, pulling out her phone. First, let's add each other on WhatsApp. Michael, still in a daze, took out his phone and they exchanged contact info. Okay, I'll head back now. See you tomorrow. Claire waved and turned to leave, her steps as light as a bird's. Michael stood there, watching her go, feeling as though the entire day had been a surreal dream. From that day on, Claire launched a full-scale romantic campaign. She sent him good morning and good night texts without fail. She showed up outside his classes to wait for him. She brought him lunches she'd made herself, which, admittedly, were barely edible, and sat with him while he pulled all-nighters working on his design projects. The whole campus was buzzing about the campus queen chasing the poor kid. Most people figured it was a phase, that she'd get bored and move on. But a month passed, and Claire's enthusiasm never wavered. Michael went from being overwhelmed to being accustomed to it. And then, finally, he started looking forward to seeing her every day. This girl was unlike anyone he had ever met. She seemed to see right through him, to know all his habits and preferences. She always knew when he needed a cup of coffee, what his favorite foods were, and could even pinpoint the trouble spots in his design assignments, offering surprisingly insightful advice. How do you know so much about architecture? He asked her once. Claire paused, then grinned. Because I'm a genius. Besides, I've been secretly studying up on it to impress you. In reality, it was all things Michael had taught her in their previous life. He used to explain his design concepts to her with such passion, but she'd always been distracted, even annoyed by it. Looking back, she had been such a fool. One day, Claire came to find Michael for lunch as usual, but he wasn't in his studio. Where's Michael? She asked his roommate, Leo. Leo looked uneasy. He had to take care of something. He left a little while ago. Claire's intuition screamed that something was wrong. Where is he? Is he in trouble? No, nothing like that, Leo said, avoiding her gaze. Claire's expression hardened. Tell me the truth. Leo sighed. Chad Harrington and his buddies cornered him behind the gym. Look, Claire, I'm not trying to get in your business, but if you really like Michael, you should stop causing him so much trouble. Chad's family is rich and powerful. Michael can't afford to get on his bad side. A jolt of fear shot through Claire as she sprinted toward the gym. Something similar had happened in her past life. Chad, driven by jealousy, had picked a fight with Michael. But back then, she hadn't intervened, and Michael had ended up in the hospital. This time, she would not let history repeat itself. When she got to the back of the gym, she saw exactly what she'd feared. Chad and 3 of his friends had Michael surrounded. I'm warning you. Charity case. Stay away from Claire. You're not worthy of her. Chad shoved Michael. Michael stood his ground, his voice calm. That's between her and me. It has nothing to do with you. You son of a bitch. You're asking for it. Chad raised his fist to swing. Stop, Claire shouted, running over and planting herself in front of Michael. Chad, what do you think you're doing? Seeing her, Chad's tone softened. Claire, this loser is harassing you. I'm just teaching him a lesson for you. Who asked you to get involved? Claire said coldly. Michael is my boyfriend. I suggest you show him some respect. Boyfriend? Chad scoffed. Claire, stop playing games. He's a broke design student. What can he give you? Be with me, and you can have anything you want. Claire took Michael's hand, her voice firm. I only want Michael. Even if he had nothing, I would still choose him. Michael looked at her in shock, a storm of emotions churning in his eyes. Chad's face turned livid. Fine. You'll regret this, Claire, he spat, before storming off with his friends. Once they were gone, Claire immediately turned to Michael, her hands fluttering over him. Are you okay? Did they hurt you? Michael shook his head, his gaze complicated. Why did you do that? He's right. I can't give you anything. Claire cupped his face in her hands, her expression serious. Michael, listen to me. I like you for who you are. Not your family, not your money. Just you. And that's more than enough. A ripple went through Michael's eyes, as if her words had struck a deep chord within him. I know you might not fully believe me right now, Claire continued, but I'll use my whole life to prove that I'm serious. Michael was silent for a moment, then he suddenly asked, That day you said that for you? We've known each other for a long time. What did you mean by that? Claire lowered her eyes. If I told you that we knew and loved each other in a past life, would you believe me? Michael chuckled. That's a pretty terrible excuse. It's true, Claire said, looking up, her eyes shining with tears. In that life, I failed you. I hurt you. So fate gave me a second chance to make it right. Seeing the tears in her eyes, Michael felt a strange, sharp pang in his heart. He reached out and gently wiped them away. Don't cry. I don't know why you're saying all this, but I'm willing to believe you. Does that mean you'll give me a chance? Claire asked, her voice full of hope. Michael nodded, a small smile appearing on his face. The truth is, I've liked you for a while now. I just didn't think I was good enough for you, so I didn't have the courage to admit it. Claire's eyes widened in surprise. Really? Really? Michael said, scratching the back of his neck sheepishly. From the first day you just hugged me out of nowhere, I knew you were different. And getting to know you, you're smart and kind and strong, and you have this mysterious side I can't figure out. I couldn't help but be drawn to you, but I was afraid it was all just a dream. Claire threw herself into his arms, holding him tight. It's not a dream, Michael. It's not a dream. This time, I'm going to love you right. I'll love you with everything I have. Michael hugged her back, his heart filled with a happy confusion. He didn't understand why Claire was so certain about them, but he was willing to trust this feeling, to follow where his heart was leading him. From that day on, they were officially a couple. They were inseparable on campus. Claire, once known for her aloofness, was now always smiling and affectionate whenever she was with Michael. She championed his design ambitions, often acting as his first critic and biggest fan. She learned to cook, something her past self would have scoffed at, but for Michael, she was willing to try. She even got a part-time job just to buy him a set of expensive design books he'd been wanting. Michael was deeply moved by her unconditional love, and he gave her all of his in return. He may not have had money, but he drew her beautiful birthday cards by hand, designed one-of-a-kind jewelry for her, massaged her shoulders when she was tired, and was the first person by her side whenever she faced a problem. Their love story became a campus legend. Everyone said they'd never seen a more perfect couple or a happier Claire. Time flew by, and soon they graduated. Michael was hired by a prestigious design firm, while Claire, using her knowledge from her past life and her hard work in this one, quickly made a name for herself in the business world. 2 years after graduation, Michael proposed. There was no lavish diamond, no grand public display, just a pair of rings he designed and crafted himself, and a heart full of sincerity. Claire accepted, tears of joy streaming down her face. This time, there was no indifference, no contempt, only an overwhelming sense of love and happiness. At their wedding, as Michael slid the ring on her finger, she whispered, "This time, it's my turn to spoil you." Michael smiled and kissed her forehead. "We'll love each other, always and forever." Married life was sweet and fulfilling. Michael steadily built his reputation in the design world, while Claire's career soared. But unlike their past life, Claire always put her family first. She never hesitated to show her love and admiration for her husband. At corporate galas, she would proudly introduce him. "This is my husband, Michael, an incredibly talented architect." She displayed his design awards prominently in her office. She turned down unnecessary networking events to be home for dinner with him. And every morning and every night, she told him, "I love you." Michael often felt like the luckiest man in the world. He might never fully understand why his wife loved him with such fierce devotion, but he was endlessly grateful for it. One night, 10 years into their new life together, Claire woke up from a nightmare, drenched in a cold sweat. "What's wrong?" "Bad dream." Michael woke instantly, wrapping his arms around her. Claire clung to him, her body trembling slightly. I dreamed you left me." "Silly girl. Dreams are always the opposite of reality," Michael murmured, stroking her back soothingly. "I'm right here. I'm not going anywhere." Resting in his embrace, listening to the strong, steady beat of his heart, Claire slowly began to calm down. Even after all these years, she was sometimes terrified that this was all just a dream, that she would wake up and find herself back in a world without Michael. "Michael, do you believe in past lives?" she asked suddenly. He smiled. "What brought this on?" I think we knew each other in a past life," Claire said softly. "And maybe I failed you then, so fate gave me this life to make it up to you." Michael tilted her face up to his and kissed her gently. "Well, if there's a past life, I must have loved you then, too. Because loving you in this life feels as natural as if I've been doing it for centuries." Tears welled in Claire's eyes. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Why are you apologizing?" Michael asked, confused. "For everything I might have done to hurt you," she choked out. Michael wiped her tears away, his smile warm and reassuring. "Claire, I don't know why you think these things, but I need you to know this. From the day we met, you have given me nothing but love and happiness. If there was a past, it's in the past. What matters is right now, this life. We have each other, and that's all that matters. Claire looked in her husband's loving eyes and finally felt a sense of peace settle over her. He was right. What mattered was the here and now, the moments they had together. She kissed him, her heart overflowing with gratitude and love. This time, there were no regrets, no missed chances, only the solid, unwavering happiness she held tightly in her hands. Outside the window, the moonlight poured in like liquid silver, blanketing the two of them in its gentle glow, a silent testament to a love that had conquered death itself. Whatever had happened in the past, in this life they were destined to be together forever,